Today, more than 8 billion humans live on Earth. We build cities, explore space, and reshape entire ecosystems. It is easy to believe that humanity's dominance was inevitable, but it wasn't. In fact, there may have been a moment when our entire species came terrifyingly close to extinction. Not millions of years ago, not before humans existed, after modern humans had already appeared. According to one controversial scientific theory, the global population of Homo sapiens may have fallen to just a few thousand individuals. Imagine every living human ancestor fitting inside a single sports stadium. One epidemic, one drought, one more natural disaster, and humanity's story could have ended forever. What caused this near extinction? A giant volcano, an eruption so powerful that it may have plunged the planet into darkness, collapsed ecosystems across continents, and pushed our ancestors to the edge of survival. This is the story of the Toba Supereruption, the genetic bottleneck, and how a handful of survivors may have become the ancestors of every person alive today. Around 300,000 years ago, in Africa, a new human species emerged. They were called Homo sapiens, the wise humans. But humans were not alone. Other human species already walked the earth. Species such as Homo erectus had survived for hundreds of thousands of years. Others, like Homo habilis, had helped begin humanity's long journey. But Homo sapiens possessed something different, a larger and more advanced brain. This allowed abstract thinking, and that ability would eventually change the world. At first, Homo sapiens lived in small groups. They wandered across Africa's vast savannas and through dense jungles. Their lives depended entirely on nature. They hunted animals for food, antelopes, giraffes, and even young elephants. Meanwhile, women and children gathered food. They searched for fruits, roots, and wild seeds. Life was difficult, but humans had a powerful advantage. They had learned to control fire. Fire provided warmth. It frightened away predators and made food easier to digest. Humans also crafted tools. They transformed stone and bone into weapons. These tools improved hunting and increased their chances of survival. Slowly, Homo sapiens began to spread. They were preparing for a journey that would eventually take them across the entire world. Around 200,000 to 100,000 years ago, the first groups of Homo sapiens began leaving Africa. They crossed vast deserts. They followed coastlines and searched for new opportunities. Step by step, they entered the Middle East and later spread into Asia. But they were not entering an empty world. Other human species already lived there. In Europe and Western Asia lived the Neanderthals. They were powerful hunters. They had survived ice ages and harsh climates. Far to the east lived another mysterious group, the Denisovans. Scientists know surprisingly little about them. Most evidence comes from a few bones and DNA. For thousands of years, these human species shared the world. Sometimes they competed, sometimes they avoided each other, and sometimes they formed families together. Modern DNA still carries traces of those encounters. Many people today carry Neanderthal genes, and some populations carry Denisovan ancestry. Life remained difficult for everyone. There were no farms, no cities, no writing. Everything revolved around survival, finding food, seeking shelter, and staying alive in a dangerous world. For tens of thousands of years, Homo sapiens continued to spread across the world. The future seemed bright. Humans were adapting to many different environments. But Earth was preparing a deadly surprise. Around 74,000 years ago, disaster struck. On the island of Sumatra stood one of the most dangerous volcanoes in Earth's history. Its name was Toba, and it was not an ordinary volcano. Toba was a supervolcano, a type of volcano capable of changing the entire planet. Then it erupted. The explosion was almost beyond imagination. Thousands of cubic miles of ash and lava blasted into the atmosphere. The eruption dwarfed almost every volcanic event in recorded history. Nearby forests vanished instantly. Animals fled in terror. Pyroclastic flows raced across the landscape. Everything in their path was destroyed. But the disaster was only beginning. Billions of tons of ash rose high into the atmosphere. Powerful winds carried it around the world. The sky grew darker. Sunlight struggled to reach the surface. The earth began to cool. A volcanic winter had begun. Temperatures dropped across many regions. Plants struggled to survive. Many forests began to die. Grasslands shrank. Food became increasingly scarce. Herbivores began starving. And predators soon followed. The entire food chain was under pressure. For Homo sapiens, this was a survival nightmare. Small hunting groups suddenly faced a world with less food. Many communities disappeared. Others were reduced to only a few survivors. Humanity suddenly seemed fragile. For the first time, extinction felt possible. And the story of the genetic bottleneck was about to begin. After the Toba eruption, humanity may have faced its greatest crisis. Scientists call this period a genetic bottleneck. A genetic bottleneck happens when a population shrinks dramatically. Many individuals disappear, and much genetic diversity is lost. Some researchers believe Homo sapiens may have been reduced to only a few thousand individuals, perhaps as few as 2,000 to 10,000 people worldwide. That is smaller than many modern towns. Imagine every human alive fitting inside a single stadium. Humanity had become incredibly vulnerable. One epidemic could have ended everything. One drought, one more natural disaster, and Homo sapiens might have vanished forever. But how do scientists know this may have happened? The answer lies inside our DNA. When scientists decoded the human genome, they discovered something surprising. Humans have remarkably low genetic diversity. We are genetically more similar to one another than many animal species are. This suggests our ancestors passed through a period of low population, when only a small number of people survived. As generations passed, the descendants of those survivors repopulate the world. Many rare genes disappeared forever. Only a fraction remained. This loss can have consequences. Reduced diversity can make a species more vulnerable. It can limit a population's ability to adapt. Yet there was also an unexpected effect. The bottleneck may have increased humanity's genetic unity. People today look different on the outside, but underneath, we are remarkably alike. Every person alive shares common ancestors, and many scientists believe the bottleneck helped shape who we are today. But surviving the bottleneck was only the beginning. Humanity still faced enormous challenges. Food remained scarce. The climate remained harsh. So how did Homo sapiens survive when so many others disappeared? So how did Homo sapiens survive when so many other species disappeared? The answer begins with cooperation. Humans survived not as individuals, but as communities. Most groups consisted of only a few dozen people. Every member had a role to play. Some hunted. Others gathered plants and food. Elders passed down knowledge. Children learned the skills needed for survival. Together, they were stronger than any individual. Humans also cared for one another. Archaeological evidence shows that even the sick and injured were supported. This compassion helped communities endure difficult times. But cooperation alone was not enough. Humans also possessed intelligence. They developed increasingly sophisticated tools. Sharp stone spear points improved hunting. New tools increased efficiency. Every innovation improved survival. Then there was fire. Fire may have been humanity's greatest early technology. It provided warmth during cold periods. It protected camps from predators and made food safer to eat. Cooked food provided more usable energy. That energy helped support large human brains. Some groups found refuge along coastlines. The sea provided a reliable source of food. Fish, shellfish, and other marine resources helped sustain them. These coastal communities may have become humanity's refuge. Another advantage was communication. Early language allowed information to spread. Hunting strategies could be shared. Tool-making techniques could be passed down. Knowledge accumulated across generations. This gave each generation a better starting point. Most importantly, Homo sapiens were adaptable. When one food source disappeared, they found another. They adapted again and again. And that adaptability may have saved our species. Against all odds, Homo sapiens survived. And slowly, the population began to recover. Generation after generation, their numbers increased. The descendants of the survivors spread farther than ever before. They moved into new environments, across Asia, into Europe, and eventually into every habitable continent. Wherever they went, they adapted. They improved their tools. They refined their hunting techniques. And their communities became stronger. Eventually, Homo sapiens became the last surviving human species. Neanderthals disappeared. The Denisovans vanished. Only Homo sapiens remained. But did the Toba eruption really bring humanity to the brink of extinction? For years, many scientists believed it did. The theory seemed to fit the genetic evidence. But science rarely stops asking questions. Researchers began looking for new evidence, and some discoveries challenged the traditional story. In southern India, archaeologists studied layers of volcanic ash. They found stone tools beneath the ash, and they found stone tools above it as well. This suggested that humans may have survived in the region without disappearing entirely. Evidence from Africa raised similar questions. Ancient coastal sites remained occupied. Humans continued making tools. They continued gathering food. And they continued creating symbolic objects. This raised an important possibility. Perhaps the Toba eruption was not equally devastating everywhere. Some regions may have suffered greatly, while others remained relatively stable. Another explanation involves something called the founder effect. A small group leaving Africa carried only part of humanity's genetic diversity. That alone could help explain why humans today are genetically similar. So the mystery remains unsolved. Even after decades of research, the full story of Toba remains uncertain. Some questions have been answered, but many mysteries remain. What is certain is that humanity survived. Our ancestors endured extraordinary hardships. They faced disasters that could have ended our story forever. Yet they adapted, they cooperated, and they endured. The lessons of the past still matter today. Earth still contains forces powerful enough to threaten civilization. One of those threats is another supervolcano. A future eruption could disrupt global agriculture and place billions at risk. Climate change presents another challenge. Ice sheets are melting, sea levels are rising, and extreme weather is becoming more common. Humanity also faces the danger of nuclear war. A major conflict could trigger a nuclear winter. Global agriculture could collapse. Food shortages could spread worldwide. Pandemics remain another threat. In a connected world, diseases can travel rapidly, and there are dangers from space. Asteroids still cross Earth's orbit. The universe offers no guarantees. But unlike our ancestors, we possess advanced technology. We can study volcanoes. We can track asteroids. We can develop medicines. And we can share information instantly across the globe. But technology alone cannot save us. The qualities that helped our ancestors survive still matter. Cooperation, adaptability, creativity, and the willingness to learn. More than 70,000 years ago, humanity may have passed through one of the narrowest gates in its history. The question is whether we will be wise enough to pass through the next one.